Chapter 2, Ordinary leaves his comfort zone.
Yep, Chapter 2, Ordinary leaves his comfort zone. Go on.
The next morning, Ordinary woke up at the usual time, but instead of reporting to his usual job, he packed his suitcase with the usual stuff. Then he added his journal. And a bottle of permanent ink. Just before he closed the latch, he carefully placed his long white feather inside. Soon Ordinary was walking away from the comfortable center and familiar, where almost every nobody lived. He was heading towards the border where almost nobodies ever went. Ordinary had never dared to walk this way before, but like every nobody, he knew that the farther you walked from the center of familiar, the less familiar things become. He also knew that most nobodies who tried to leave the comfort zone of familiar because became so uncomfortable they turned around and went home. Some were so glad to be back they sat in their recliner for days waiting for nothing to happen and sighed with real relief. But Ordinary told himself he was different from most nobodies. He would pursue his dream no matter what.
Brimming with anticipation.
Ordinary whistled his new tune while he walked, and he dreamed about the great things he would accomplish. Life had never seemed so promising. Ordinary hadn't gone far, however, when he no longer felt like whistling. He couldn't say why, but he just wasn't in the mode anymore. Then he walked farther. He began to feel edgy. Is that edgy?
Yep. He began to feel edgy, period.
What?
You don't say the period. It's alright, you're doing good. Keep going.
Edgy. The center.
Spell it.
SCENERY.
Scenery.
The scenery looked different. The leaves on the trees looked leafy in a different way. Now, when Ordinary thought about his dream, it looked different. For the first time, he saw how pursuing it could cause him a lot of discomfort. He would have to
Unfamiliar
things in unfamiliar places, and he would and he wouldn't have his box to watch. Then he had an even more disturbing thought to do. What he most loved, he would have to do what he most dreaded. Ordinary's mode quickly went from edgy to
Anxiety? Anxious.
His steps began to slow, and he began to have big doubts about his big dream. What had he been thinking? He didn't have enough talent or skill to succeed at his dream. He was certainly unable to accomplish great things. What if he failed right in front of other nobodies? Worse, even if he could do the dream, he was certain unworthy. Nobody could see he didn't deserve to live his dream. He was just ordinary. After all, maybe the dream giver had meant to give the dream to some other nobody or noble than him. By now, each step was harder to take than the last. His anxiety. No.
Yeah, you're right. Anxiety grew
into fear. Then up ahead he saw a sign. It read, "Leaving the comfort zone of familiar, entering borderland." Now Ordinary felt terror.
Where?
Felt terror. Felt
where point?
Like felt
sheer terror.
Felt sheer terror. Sweat poured off his forehead.
Sweat poured off his forehead.
Sweat poured off.
Not sweet. It's okay. Keep going. It's okay.
Where was I? Sweat poured off his forehead. He could hardly breathe. He could hardly think. Then, just as he came to the sight, Ordinary hit an invisible wall of fear. He stopped, unable to take one more step. He dropped his suitcase and sat on it. Should he turn around, he wondered, or should he try to find a way to go on? Time passed, then he heard these words. "Why are you stopping?" Ordinary recognized the dream giver. "I think I want to go back home," he said weakly. "I'm not the right nobody to go after such a big dream." "Yes, you are," said the dream giver. I made you to do this, but I don't think I can do this," he said. Yes, you can, and I will be with you. I will help you. Ordinary stayed where he was. He watched the unfamiliar bug crawl across his toe. Strange.
All right, pause.
Oh.
There you go. Keep going.
Ordinary stayed where he was. He watched an unfamiliar bug crawl across the toe of his shoe. Strange birds flew by overhead. After a while, he stood and looked longingly towards the longingly towards the unknown. Somewhere out there was his big dream, but getting from here to there seemed way too hard. Then he looked longingly back towards familiar. He fondly remembered all its comfort.
6:45.
All his
Where?
comforts. His usual job, his best friend, his recliner, his box. There was something wonderful about nothing happening. Ordinary picked up his suitcase and decided to take one step in the direction, just to see what it felt like. It felt better right away. His breath came easier, so he took another step just to see what the step would feel like. It felt even better. He went on with every step back towards the middle of familiar. Ordinary grew more comfortable, but he quickly noticed he was also growing sad again, and he knew why. With each step he took, he was leaving his big dream farther behind. Then he heard the dream giver again. "Why are you going back?" he asked. Ordinary stopped. "Because I'm afraid. Leaving familiar feels too scary and too risky," he said. "Yes, it does. But if I was supposed to do this big dream," he explained, "then I'm sure I wouldn't feel so afraid." "Yes, you would," said the dream giver. Every nobody does ordinary Every nobody does.
Every nobody does. He goes here. Start over again.
Every nobody.
Yes. Yes, you would," said the dream giver. Every nobody does. Ordinary hung his head. He thought for a moment. "But you could take away the fear. Please take the fear away," he begged. "If you don't, I can't go on." "Yes, you can," the dream giver said. "Take courage, Ordinary." And then he was gone.
Ordinary saw his choice clearly. Now he could either keep his comfort or his dream. But how do you take courage when you don't have any? Ordinary decided if his fear wasn't going to leave, he would have to go forward. In spite of it still trembling, he picked up his suitcase, turned his back on familiar, and walked to the site.
All right, stop. Walk to the site.
Where's that?
Ordinary shut his eyes and took a big step forward right through the invisible wall of fear. Then he made a surprising discovery. On the other side of that single step, the exact one Ordinary didn't think he could take, he found that he had broken through the comfort zone. Now the wall of fear was behind him. He was free, and his dream was ahead. He began to whistle again as he walked on, his big dream beating brightly in his chest.
In his chest. Later that day, Ordinary took out his journal and his long white feather and wrote down the truth about his comfort zone.
You want me to read these?
Uh-huh.
It was hard to leave my comfort zone, but it would have been even harder to leave behind my dream, and I'm glad I didn't. I still don't feel worthy or able to do my dream, but the dream giver has promised to help me. Now I know a secret. I can take courage even when I feel afraid. My big dream was on the other side of that invisible wall of fear. I had to step through it. I didn't think I could, but I did. So we're on chapter 3.